In previous lectures in the course so far, we've talked about the different types of speeches that you might be called on to make. We've talked about speaking to inform, we've looked at speaking to persuade. Now we want to look at speaking for special occasions. And we're going to look at the different types of occasions or ceremonies where you might be called on to deliver some kind of an address. And so we're going to start by talking about a speech of introduction. A speech of introduction should do three things. It should build enthusiasm for the upcoming speaker. It should build enthusiasm for that speaker's topic. And it should establish a welcoming climate that will boost the speaker's credibility. The most important point you could gather from that list of three things that an introductory speech should do is it should be clear to you that the introductory speech is not about you. You are establishing and setting up for someone who is coming to speak after you. You are introducing someone, and so therefore they're the important part. You're just the warm-up. History is full of anecdotes and stories about speakers who overshot what they were supposed to be doing for an introductory speech. In the dedication of the cemetery in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania in 1863, Abraham Lincoln's address was to be the dedication of the graveyard, the cemetery, but Edward Everett was supposed to introduce him and do some introductory remarks. Everett's oration lasted 2 hours. And of course, the Gettysburg Address itself was only 2 minutes. If you are introducing somebody, your speech needs to focus on them. You don't need to get the attention on you. You need to focus the attention on the person you are introducing. So first and foremost, in a speech of introduction, be brief. Keep it short. For example of introductory remarks that ran well over time is found in our textbook, and it's an anecdote about a speech in the United States by the English Foreign Secretary, Lord Balfour, in the early days of World War I. The American who was to introduce him to the American audience stood up and spoke for 45 minutes in his introduction to Lord Balfour. After the 45-minute introduction, Lord Balfour stood up and said, "I am supposed to give my address in the short time remaining. Here it is, 10 Carlton Gardens, London, England." The second thing to be aware of when you make your introduction is to be accurate. You are there to introduce the speaker to the audience. Make sure that what you tell them about him is correct. Be sure to adapt your remarks to the occasion. If you are speaking in a situation that is going to have an important guest that needs to be introduced, it's going to be a more formal occasion. And so your language should be acceptably formal for that event. Make sure that you are not inappropriate in the things you say. Make sure that you are giving the event the gravitas, the seriousness that it requires. Make sure to adapt your remarks to the speaker themselves. Often, if you're invited to introduce a guest speaker, that's because you have some kind of previous relationship with that person. Moments before a speaker comes to the podium to speak is not the time to share embarrassing stories from their youth. Again, remember that the three purposes of an introductory speech: preparing the audience for the speaker, building enthusiasm for his topic, and creating a welcoming climate that is going to increase the speaker's credibility. Telling them about the time he fell into a mud puddle or the time he did something foolish as a child is not going to increase their credibility. Make sure your remarks are appropriate for the occasion and for the person that you're introducing. You also need to adapt your remarks to the audience. Remember who you're speaking to. If you were introducing the author J.K. Rowling to an audience of children who are fans of Harry Potter, you would say certain things about her as an author. If you are introducing the author J.K. Rowling's to a group of MFA writing students, you're going to have a completely different introduction. You're going to suit the words to the audience that you're talking to. Finally, Your introductory remarks should try to create a sense of anticipation and drama. There are a couple of ways you can create this suspense and drama. If the speaker is not well known, tell us about the things they have done, but save their name for last. Build up this introduction and then end with something like, and now, ladies and gentlemen, I present, name of the speaker. If this is someone who is already well known, if this is somebody the audience is very familiar with, then you can try to create some sense of drama and suspense by casting them in a new light. Tell us something we don't know about this guest speaker. The next type of event we want to talk about is a speech of presentation, and this is where you are presenting an award to someone. Obviously, the most important task in such a speech is to explain why the recipient is receiving the award, what they did to earn it, what they have accomplished in their lives, that kind of thing. Depending on what the award is and how well known it is, you might need to explain what this award is, who's giving it, what it takes to win it. If it's going to be a public situation and those who were in competition for the award are also going to be present, you might want to acknowledge the other people who were considered for the award. The flip side of the speech of presentation is the speech of acceptance. You're not giving an award, you are receiving an award, and you have to say thank you to the people who gave it to you. Obviously, saying thank you is the most important thing you do in this type of speech. But you also might need to say thank you to those who helped you win the award, and maybe even a thank you to the fellow competitors for what they have done. In this case, think about the Academy Awards and how many times a winner for Best Actor or Actress, Supporting Actress, has stood up and thanked the other people in the category. It never costs anything to be gracious, and you have just received a great honor that they didn't get. And so it doesn't hurt to acknowledge them and soften that blow a little bit and make them feel proud and happy about what they accomplished. The last type of speech we want to consider is a speech of commemoration. Commemoration is unlike any of the other speeches we've given this semester. It's not to inform, it's not to persuade, it is to celebrate and to inspire. These speeches are the great speeches that we have recorded through history. The Gettysburg Address that I mentioned earlier, the I Have a Dream speech that you'll be watching as part of this unit. These speeches are there to inspire people by the examples of past leaders or past heroes, or to challenge us to rise to the challenge of our own future. And what makes those speeches special are the language. Now, we're going to, in our next lecture, look at what makes a speech memorable. And in large part, it is the language and the imagery used by the speaker as they address the audience.